Now, in culmination, I want to give you a slight segue, but you'll see why it's important. 5 reasons why the birth of the modern state of Israel in 1948 cannot fulfill the prophecy in Isaiah chapter 66, verses 7 through 8, and why Maaseh Shlachim chapter 2, the Acts of the Apostles in chapter 2, is the true fulfillment. 5 reasons why the birth of the modern state of Israel in 1948 cannot fulfill biblical prophecy. Number 1, we have spiritual versus a political nationhood. Israel in 1948, the modern state of Israel is a political reestablishment rooted in Turkic Mongols, a racial occult clique, Frankists and Zionist ideologies. It is an international clique planned out of a Frankist plot to occupy, resettle, and usurp by military efforts. It was a secular event, unless you take into account the demonic Frankist cult. But it really was a secular event. Whereas Acts chapter 2, the prophecy in Isaiah speaks to the birth of a spiritual nation, not a political one. In Acts chapter 2, a new nation is born through the Ruach HaKodesh at Shavuot, uniting believers from all 12 tribes into a spiritual messianic kingdom. This aligns with the holy nation described in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, where believers are called into a royal priesthood under the Melchizedek order. It is a spiritual restoration of Israel. Number 2, we've got immediate birth versus a general or gradual process. So with number 2, we've got an immediate birth versus a gradual process. Israel in 1948. The establishment of the modern Zionist state of Israel was a gradual process. It spanned decades, with the Zionist Frankish cult movement headed by the occultist Theodore Herzl starting in the late 19th century. It took time. It took negotiations. It took wars and political maneuvering to establish the state. Whereas Acts chapter 2, in contrast, the assembly of believers was born suddenly in one day, just as Isaiah chapter 66 describes. On Shavuot, the Ruach HaKodesh descended upon the Talmudim, the disciples, and 3,000 suddenly were added to the assembly in a single day. Verse 41. This immediate and truly transformative event is the type of instant birth that the prophet Isaiah speaks about. And it is in total contrast to the gradual political establishment of the occultist racial clique in 1948. Does that make sense? Number 3, we've got limited spiritual significance versus worldwide gospel impact. Limited spiritual significance versus worldwide gospel impact. Israel in 1948. The creation of the modern state of Israel had limited spiritual significance. Have you been to Tel Aviv? Its primary impacted one region of the world and was centered on the secular, Zionist vision of expansion and resettlement. Its political implications in the Middle East, they have been divisive and devastating. You'd have to be a fool to deny that. Acts chapter 2, in contrast, the birth of the called out assembly on Shavuot had worldwide gospel significance. The gospel went out to every nation under heaven, Acts chapter 2, verse 5, fulfilling the deeper spiritual purpose of Israel as a light to the nations, Isaiah chapter 49, verse 6. Acts chapter 2 is the birth of a nation rooted in faith, open to all peoples. It is not a racial political entity, but a messianic community rooted in Melchizedek that transcends borders and ethnicity. Just as the mountain in Exodus chapter 19. Number 4, human origin versus divine origin. It's kind of sad that I have to do this, isn't it? Not for you guys, because you're Torah to the tribes. But the traditional church, I mean, they are hoodwinked. Hoodwinked. If I see another Star of Ramphan, the Star of Ramphan and the Ukrainian flag, they are intertwined. That is not the Star of David, brethren. The birth of the spiritual nation at let's go back to number 4, right? Am I at number 4? I think I'm at number 4. Was that 4? Yeah, okay. Human origin versus divine sovereignty. Okay, I'm back on track. Israel. So the modern state of Israel was established through human means, political negotiation, wars, and international treaties. You'd have to possess a slumbering spirit to see any divine providence in its creation. The process was clearly human effort. I don't understand how people can say that this was divine. History tells you that this was done through political negotiations, wars, bankers, and international treaties. The Bellflower Act, for crying out loud. The Rothschilds signed it. How could you say that this had anything to do with divine sovereignty? In contrast, Acts chapter 2, the birth of the spiritual nation at Shavuot was a sovereign act of the Most High. The Ruach HaKodesh descended miraculously, fulfilling Yahushua's promise of the coming kingdom. Acts chapter 1, verse 8, the sudden divine intervention in the called out assembly. You've got all 12 tribes. Totally mirrors the miraculous nature of Isaiah's prophecy, where the nation is born directly by Yahweh's hand, not through human political efforts. And the nail in the coffin, number 5, a racial clique versus a spiritual kingdom. Israel in 1948. The modern state of Israel is not the messianic kingdom foretold in the Hebrew scriptures. It is a secular state driven by racial, nationalistic, and political motives, and it does not represent the fulfillment of Yahweh's promises for a spiritual kingdom. And anyone who says so has got a slumbering spirit. You'd have to. Now my pages are sticking because it's Marmite. So you must know that I was thoroughly enjoying writing this up, because when there's Marmite on my pages, then I was in a good place. I had some Marmite on toast with a little cottage cheese on top this morning. Oh, the best. Does that sound weird? Sounds so good. Acts chapter 2, in contrast, marks the true inauguration of the Messianic kingdom. Now, you may remember in Colossians, in the first chapter, I love Colossians. In fact, I think we did a teaching on Colossians, didn't we? Colossians chapter 1, verse 13, the Apostle Paul writes that believers have been transferred into the kingdom of his beloved Son. So the spiritual reign of Yahushua began with his resurrection and the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh. Can we agree on that? Well, we could argue with the scriptures, but I wouldn't advise it. This, of course, fulfills Isaiah's prophecy of a new divinely created nation. In Acts chapter 2, this spiritual kingdom is open to all brethren, all who believe. It is a far cry from a racial, political, ethnic clique hell-bent on the occupation and destruction of human life. That's the deception. That's the broad road. Isaiah chapter 66 is the bookend to Genesis chapter 12. Look at the Hebrew words, lachak. Look at the Hebrew word for mingled. Look at the text of the blessing, the ve nevrechu, and you will find these gems buried in the field. You are the treasure in Yahweh's hand, because Israel is my treasure. True biblical Israel, all 12 tribes restored under the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach into a Melchizedek priesthood with a new Cohen Hagadol. This happened in Acts chapter 2. You have got title to the land, title to the kingdom, and title to eternal life if you kiss the Son and know his name. That's the prophecy of Isaiah, and that is Yasam. Shabbat Shalom.